All right, welcome back. We are WEBD6201 in the winter 2021 semester, and it is week 6, part 2 of our broadcast, and we're talking about AJAX. Let's take a look of what we left off last day. So again, I'm just going to pull up our app, and again, I'm looking at the same project, week 6B from last day. So let's take a look. If I run light server, and we talked about this a little bit. Here's light server. I'm just bringing it down in there. We have a couple of things going on, right? Right now we have our login. We can get to login, right? And what we want to do is when I actually log in, I want to compare it, my login versus the file. So that's where I'm at right now. So let's take a look at what we've got. Inside of our users.json, we have a bunch of users that I've listed here. So let's say 3 users, John Smith, May Smith, the admin user. And I want to basically compare our login credentials with one of these things. So that's kind of one of the things we want to do today. Let's fix up that login page just a little bit because we're missing a couple things, yeah? One of the things we're missing is a cancel button. Sometimes I don't want to log in or whatever. I want to go back to home, or I want to stop my login. And also the login button is kind of big and lanky. And I think what I'd like to do is, kind of move the login button a little bit down with a little bit of CSS, which we can borrow from Bootstrap. That's what we wanted to kind of do there. So let's do that first. So one thing that I want to do in order for me to move that down is the previous form group. So notice that these things are like right next to each other, but I want separation between these two and the button. Then I would go and do that here. So here is the button. It's called submit button. We have to change that too. And again, for your lab 2, you can accept some of the changes I'm going to make today as we go forward. But if you notice here, it says form group, and this whole div tag, it surrounds password. So we can add margin bottom 2. I think that's a good number. And when I do that, and if I go back to our login, you can see now that there's a bit of margin between, the entry and this. This is pretty cool. And I also want to make the button smaller. So I don't think I want to use large button here at all, actually. And again, let's just go back and look at what that does. It makes it kind of a smaller button. And I'd like to add in a little bit of an icon for this. So let's add an icon. We can use the sign in icon like we did before. So if I look at font awesome, then again, I'm just styling right now. And if I go sign in, then you can see that this is the button this is the icon I want to use, the same icon that I used for my login, right? So again, I want to go back to here, and just before the login, I want to put that in, put a space in there so there's a separation between the icon and login. I need that. And let's change the button. So instead of submit button, it's the login button. I think that's probably the right thing to call it. Yeah. So that's kind of where we're going with that. Okay, so that is this part. And let's see what it looks like when I go back to here. So you can see now it's got a little login symbol. That's pretty cool. And what I want is a cancel button right next to it. And we can get that cancel button. We already have an example of the cancel button that we used. And that's inside of our edit.html. Edit.html, we have a cancel button. I'm just going to lift that right from here. Cancel, right? And I'm going to put it inside of the login form. So under login, I'm just going to kind of go in here and pop in the cancel button. One thing is this is using a large symbol. I don't want that to be large. And I think that would look pretty good. One thing is we want to try and keep consistent styling. So for example, in our edit button, if I go back to my contact form and show contact list, you know, as an example, the edit symbol is pretty large. So if we're going to keep large symbols, excuse me, that's okay. But we want to kind of be consistent eventually with the kind of way we're doing things. For now, I'm just keeping these symbols low and kind of making it like this. But I'd like to make, one thing I'd like to do is try and put these buttons kind of on the right. There's a couple ways to do this. One way is to make another row and then use columns to do it, right? But this is just text. The stuff that's in here is just text. So maybe there's a way of doing it with alignment. So if I say, you know, if I go to get bootstrap, let's take a look at it. And again, we have to use the new stuff. The old stuff won't work the same way as it's working right now. So again, if I go to docs, and if I look at, now this is kind of like a text layout. So let's see if we can find something that does something like that. So it says containers and columns and gutters, and we got content, and we've got reboot, forms, and layout. So forms layout. So we got some gutters. We can add a gutter. But what I really want is my text to kind of be, I want to move that button on the right. So how do we do that? Maybe there's something that can help us out. Maybe not. Text center kind of did wonders for us the last time, text center. But I want to do kind of something that does the same kind of thing. So there's components and helpers. So we can open this up. There's text truncation and different utilities for everything we have. There's a text utility, text alignment. So now we can see that there's text start, text center, and text end, right? So there's text end, and that might help us out with what we want. So maybe instead of text right, maybe it's text end. Let's try text end instead and see what happens. If not, we're just going to leave it and move on. Text end. Again, we're trying to use the new stuff. That worked nice. Look at that. So that kind of moved it to the right there, which is kind of where I want my form to be. And this is kind of closer to what you would look like, you know, when you're doing stuff, right? And the button's kind of stretched a little bit too, which is kind of neat. All right, so that's kind of where it's going to be. So now if I press the cancel button, what I want the cancel button to do is take me right back to the home page, because that's kind of where it should go. So let's program that in first. Let's talk about how that's going to work. So login button, cancel button, those are the only two things I've changed right now. And I've also added some margin bottom too on the previous element, the div tag. So just to give us a little bit of margin between the buttons and the actual form password entry. Okay, that's what we've done there. So let's go back and take a look at where we can do this. One thing I'm going to do is look at a lot of stuff open up here, and sometimes I'd like to close them all down. So I can close all. That's a pretty good thing. So it cleans up my editor a little bit. I want to keep my login form open. So this is pretty cool. And I also want to go and do my app.js. Those two are okay to put to open up. And I want to get into this login. I actually have a cancel button example right on top of it in the previous function, which is the display edit. I want to grab that one. Since we already have an edit, let's just grab this button and let's put it in our login, which is down here. But instead of taking us back to the contact list, we want to take us back to the index.html. All right, so a return to the home page is what we want to say here. So that would be the button, and that's only for display login. So whenever we go to login, then you know we activate this little functionality. Right? Nice. So it takes us back. One thing to note though is if I enter some data and I go cancel, and it takes us back, and then I go back to my login form, a lot of times, sometimes what it'll do is it'll maintain that data. So it doesn't do it right now, but just to confirm that it will do that, because I think that, you know, when we start entering data in the form and so on, I want to make sure that that doesn't work that way, okay? And the way to take care of that is to reset the form manually. Okay, that's what I want to kind of do. And we have to get access to the form itself in order for me to reset. So the way that looks is if I go to, so first I want to reset the form. I want to get access to the form, and I can use jQuery here to get access to the form to reset. So if I say something like, hey, jQuery, I want to get access to, remember, I can use the same syntax as CSS. If I say form, right? So any form, what I want to do is when I leave, I want to reset. Can that work? And let's just comment this out. So the cancel button just will reset and see what it does if I just did this. So if I go back to, here and I type something in and I click cancel, right, then that should reset the form. Let's take a look and see if that is working. So first thing it says, uncaught reset is not a function, right? And I want you to think about what I'm doing here. I'm saying, hey, get everything with a form element in it, right? Everything with a form element. And then I'm saying, well, reset everything. Well, the reset doesn't work, you know, kind of on things. So if I try and type in reset, you can see that that's not even part of jQuery. So I want to reset the object, and you have to only use things that that are available to us, right? And you can see that clear doesn't really exist either. So it's not like I can clear the form. Empty, right? What does empty do? So empty, if you hover over, it says remove all child nodes of the set of matched elements. Well, I don't want to do that. That's going to be like terrible. Empty the form is going to like delete the form, right? So I don't want that. So that's kind of not what I want. So again, let's just use some regular stuff. So document dot get elements. We can get element by ID, or I can just get form. So I can get forms, all the forms on the page, and I want to look at the first form on the page, and I want to reset that form. And let's see if that just does the job, right? Because if I click cancel now, so again, admin, click cancel, and that resets. And that's what I wanted. So this is kind of what I want. It's a one-liner. Yeah, I'm using JavaScript instead of jQuery, but that's okay, right? I mean, we're in a JavaScript course. We can use whatever we want. So that resets the form. Before we move on, reset the form, or clear the form is what we want to say here. Clear the login form. Okay, so clear the login form, return to the home page. Why? Because it'll remember a lot of times. That's what will happen. The other thing is that the form itself, so login, so if I go back to login.html, we got to make sure that these buttons don't do what they're supposed to do. For example, the login button should not be a submit. It should be a button, right? If I make it a submit, then what's going to happen is it's going to try and submit the form, and I don't want that to happen. I want to control what happens. And for you guys, for your lab 2, you need to make sure that this is controllable as well. The class is login, again, for the content area. ID is content area for the div, right? That's what we have here. And we have a form ID of login form. The other way I could have hooked into this one is to connect. I can look for an ID of login form and then try and do it that way. Notice I say also no validate. No validate turns default validation off for the form, so that way when I submit the button, it doesn't look through everything, and that's okay because I want you guys to do your own custom validation on the form for Lab 2 for both the login form and for the register form, right? That's what I want you guys to do. So let's take a look at one thing that's missing from here is the area. That's the message area, right? And notice I have like login, and underneath the login, I need some kind of message area here. I've asked you guys to do this, but I'll do it for you because we've got examples of that already. So I'm going to go to, again, the edit HTML, and you can see that there's a message area here. We're just going to grab that message area, right? And I'm going to go back to my login and put that in. So just in here, put that message area in. That's where I'm going to show messages like your login failed, you know, or something like that. By the way, whenever we give messages for logging in, one thing to be clear is we don't want to give too much information to the user. I know some places they'll give you information like your password's wrong. But if you know that the password is wrong, then the problem from that is that your password will actually, you know the password's wrong. If I say your username is wrong, then you'll try and hammer the username. So I don't want you to know, I don't want anyone to know what the problem is when you log in. We just want to say that there's a problem logging in, right? Now, a lot of places don't do that. They give you a chance to let you know that username is wrong or password's wrong. I don't believe that's a good practice. I think it's better to not tell the user everything and just say, you know, something like your login failed, right? Which is good enough. So that's what I want to do with the login form, but I need a message area for that. And that's what I put it here. I also need a message area inside of my register form, right? So again, in register.html, you should have a little message area inside there as well. I'm kind of giving it to you for free here, so you don't have to do it yourself. But that's something that you should consider, a message area for the register form. Again, I'm just going to update these things a little bit. The register form needs some love as well, but I'm going to leave you guys to do this part because we're not going to register today. We're just going to log in. Okay. Remember, registering, one thing to note, remember from last day, is we cannot save anything with AJAX. We can't save anything on the server, like physically a file. I can't update the user's file with AJAX. It won't allow me to do that because of security, right? I mean, if I could, like I said before, if I could update or add, something to a file, I mean, I could add a virus to a file too, right? So we don't want that. So again, we have to use a database for that, and that's what we're going to do later on this semester. All right, so that is the register form. I'm just going to kill the register form and go back to the login form because this is what we want to focus on today. So again, going back to this, we know that the cancel button now will reset and it'll take us back to the main page, and this is good. What I want to do next is I want to do a comparison. And in order for me to do a comparison of, kind of where we're going, and I want you to think about this for a second. I'm going to take a look at the user.json, right? So I'm going to look through this thing. I'm going to pull up each one of these users. And I want to look at a couple things. I want to make sure that the username and the password match. So it should be admin 1234556 as an example. And if it doesn't match, then I want to redirect them or give them a message. That's what I want to do. So, and again, we're mocking this up. We're going to do more on this later on, but we want to be able to do that first. So one thing we want to do is get access to the login button in order for me to do that. So let's go back to this and say, okay, I'm here in the display. The next thing I want to say, well, is the login button clicked? So I'm going to say, hey, jQuery, if the login button is clicked, on click, then what I want to do is I want to do something when the login button is clicked. I want to check to see if a bunch of stuff is happening. Let's do a couple things first. I'm going to also want to get information about the username and password. So we'll say let username is equal to, and again, something that looks like username. So I want this. I'm just using the jQuery stuff right now, but you can use JavaScript too. And I want to do the password too. I want to say it's kind of like, hey, let's get the password and, the value or the password and the username that the user entered. What are those things that they answered, okay? And then what I want to do is I want to loop through, right, all the usernames and passwords from here and find them. Now, guys, so let's be honest, this is not the best use of to check username and password. Obviously, it's best to use a database and use some kind of search algorithm. I am not going to make a search algorithm to look through a small, file, as an example, that uses.json. Maybe in a future lesson, if we have time, I'll talk about how to make a good search to search through a file, right? But I'm going to just do a linear search here right now, because that's all we need to prove out this login functionality, and we don't have a lot of time. So I'm just being honest and telling you that straight up. So I want to be able to look at the file, and I could go through and use what I showed you last time, which is I could create an XHR object. I could do all that kind of stuff. But if you look at the PowerPoint that I've given you, at the bottom of the PowerPoint, I have these shortcut methods for working with AJAX using jQuery. And the shortcut methods are really short, like .get, .post, as well as there's also .get JSON. So this is pretty cool. So how do these work? And there's also, by the way, .AJAX. So that is also another thing that we can use with AJAX, right? Because you can see that there are several solutions, and how this works is really interesting. And one thing to note is this really saves us a lot of time. So this is kind of what I want to do here. I want to say, hey, jQuery, get some JSON for us, right? Let's do the .get first. So if I say something like, hey, jQuery, I'm not joking around. This is how great this is. I want to use the get method, and then it says, what's the URL? So this is how the get method works. It's kind of really cool. I want to say, and this is where jQuery shines for AJAX. Remember all that stuff we had to do with AJAX? Well, jQuery is like /data/ the name, which is users.json. And then once I have that, it says, okay, so then what's the callback function, right? I can actually add a callback function here as a success. So I want to use that. And if you notice here, it does just that, right? So I said, hey, I want some kind of function that gives me some data back, right? And it doesn't matter whether you're using JSON or just .get like this. Then what is data? So console log data. Look at that. That's like 3 lines of code where we had to do like step 1, step 2, step 3, get it, check this. If it's 200 and the status code is 200 and the ready state is 4, blah, 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 right? Like lots of stuff to do when jQuery just does this, right? So that's kind of a really good thing about jQuery, I have to admit. So if I go back to here, let's go back to our file, and I click the login button, then I get this. Look how beautiful that is. I get 3 users, and yeah, right? So .get just does this. .json is actually a specialized form of the .get method, which actually it kind of knows that you're getting JSON in, and you can do some additional functionality, but we're not going to really use that functionality. So .get is perfect for us, right? Why? Because now we have data. And just like we showed here in the form, you can see that I have data and there's users. So data.users is something I can loop through just like before. So if I go back to here, then instead of doing this, I can do a for loop. By the way, you can also use a .each, which is kind of cool, right? For each thing in the data .users, I could do that for each one. And by the way, for the .each is something we haven't talked about, but it's here, right? So I can do some kind of function to loop through something. So I can say for everything, I can do a function to loop through the data, right? So, okay, cool. So what does this do? Data.users, right? And then it says that when I loop through, I have 2 parts. I have, let's say, a key and value. And this is cool and all that stuff, but, and this will do for each piece of data, right? And then I got to do 2 for each. That doesn't make sense to me how this looks. So I'm not even going to do this .each. To me, I'm going to do instead, I'm going to do a for of, which makes more sense to me, for of. And we know we have data, and I want user, for every user in data.users, right? For every user in data.user. Remember, I'm going to get, the reason why I know it's data.users is because in my users.json file, I have a users array, right? So this is the data.users, right? Data.users. So for every user in data.users, right, then let's print that user out, console log, the user, right? And if I was to look at that and see what that looks like when I click login, you can see again, I have access to all the users. Yay, this is great. Then I can compare username, capital U, with username, lowercase u, that I put in there and see if it's the same. If it matches, we're good, but I need the username and the password to match. Okay, the username and the password has to match in order for me to continue. So how do I do that match, right? Well, it would be an if statement, right? I'm going to say something like if my user, right, dot, and it's got to be capital username, right? So, and I want to compare it with username. So if my username, so lowercase username, is equal to my user dot username, right? Remember, it's got to be uppercase like this. Why? Because inside of my users, I have username, capital, right? So just showing you that. And I want both those two things to match. And my password is equal to my user dot password, capital P, right? Because again, if you look at users, I have a capital P for password, right? If both those two things are true, then that's great. I want you to break out of this loop, right? We found our user, fantastic. And that's good. But so what if I break out? I need to somehow save that information that I got, the actual user that I want, because I want to put it inside of session storage today. And remember the difference between session storage and local storage is session storage, if I use it, it goes away after I close my tab. So I need another little check for that. I'm just going to use a little Boolean. So let success, we'll just call it success, is equal to false. There's other ways to do this too, but I want to do it this way. So, so I have a little Boolean that basically says, no, so far my success of logging in is false. But guess what? When I do this, if this is true, then success is true. Okay, why? Because once I know success is true, I can do something below this area, below the for loop. So this is going to basically go through each user, check each user in the users.json file. That's what it's going to do. So, I mean, that's a linear search, which is a linear search, really slow. If I had 10,000 users, then it would go through potentially 10,000 lines, worst case scenario, which is a very terrible way of doing it. It's far better if I was to load it in, sort the file first according to username, let's say, or something like that, and then do some kind of other search algorithm, in order for me to do this. So sorting and searching, right? Which is kind of a better way of doing it than a linear search, but we only have 3 users and I want to get done this today, so I don't want to move on. I want to talk about searching right now. We also could use a different way of doing it, right? Where we can use regular expressions to search as well. That's something else we can use to search through a file, but we're not going to do that either. So let's just move on because I'm mentioning this again because it doesn't make me happy that I'm doing this, but I need to do it because we have a mission today to fulfill. So this is great. So I'm doing this inside of the get JSON. And remember why I'm doing this inside of here, because this is when my AJAX is active, anything inside here. Anything outside of here would be a bad thing, because what's going to happen in here is that I'm accessing the server inside of this block right here. So this block is basically, kind of use AJAX to access the JSON file. That's what it's doing, right? And now we're in asynchronous territory, right? Which means if I don't access it in here and I try and do something out here, then we don't know when the file is going to respond. Here, I'm guaranteed that I'm going to get a response if the file is working, right? So if the file is correct, I'm not going to get an error. I'm just going to get a response and everything else, which is good. So this is kind of where I want to do everything inside of here, but outside of the for loop. So now I want to check to see if I have success, right? So if login is, if I somehow, if username and password matches, and we'll say so success, then I want to perform login. Perform login. Now you might want to mix this and put it in here, but remember, I'm searching in my for loop here. I'm searching, right? So I want to just break out when I have success and other things, but for now, one step at a time, right? So let's just use that. So I'll say if success for now. If I have success, if it's true, otherwise it starts off as false. So if it's true, if I have success, then what do I want to do? Well, I want to add the user to session storage. That's what I want to do, okay? And then I want to take the user, redirect user to the secure area. And in this case, it is going to be the contact list, my friends, right? That's where it's going to go, contact list.html. I want to make the contact list.html a secure area that only logged in users can access, okay? Again, that's another goal of today's session. And what if I don't have success? Well, let's do that part first. That's easier. If I don't have success, then I want to make some kind of message show up, right? So display an error message. I'm just scaffolding this out for you guys in pseudocode, kind of. Display an error message, right? Which basically tells the user that they didn't log in properly, right? So that's what I want. Okay, this is kind of what I'm looking for. I can't really display an error message without hooking into it. Okay, so it's not like I can just do this right away, right? So I need to kind of create a mechanism for this. So at the top, before my login button, whether I want it or not, I want my message area. So I want to get my message area, and I want to say my message area is equal to $. Man, I hate when that does that. $message area, right? Because $ is, hey, jQuery, right? $message area. So I'm going to get message area. And by default, I want my message area to be hidden, just in case I'm back to this form again, and I come back here, and I had an error, I want to hide it again when I come back to login. So that's accessing the message area, right? And once I have access to the message area, then, well, I can produce a message, right? So if I failed, right, then what I want to do is say something like, well, let's get access to the username again. Now, unfortunately, what I'm doing here is I'm doing all in one. I'm getting the value. Smart thing to do would, kind of do the username value down here. So instead of username, I would say username.value, password.value, and then I capture the username once inside here. So let's make that change. So instead of capturing it twice, I'm going to say, I'm going to cut this, and I'm going to say, okay, if username.value, right? And the same thing goes here. I'll put the semicolons there in a second. And password.value, if password.value is this, so I'm getting the username and password, right? And now that I have the username and password, I can kind of do that and say, okay, hey, listen, username. I want to trigger, like we've done before, the focus, right, on the username, and I want to trigger the select. That's what I want to do, right? So I want to trigger select, the select action and the focus action, just like we've done in the past, but I need the username to do that, right, which is jQuery element. And then I want to say, hey, message area, I want to show the message area and add a class. This is just like from last time, which is an alert danger, the red little area that comes up that says basically, hey, error, right? Remember we said this, something like invalid login information. We don't want to give too much information here, because the more information we give, the worse it's going to be, because then they can hammer us, right? So this is what it's going to be here if we fail. Let's test this one right now. And what about if we're good? I want to fail first, but if we're good, then I want to hide. So add user to session storage and hide any error message. is something we want to do right here. So I want to kind of do, hey, message area, let's remove attribute, right? Remove attribute, any kind of class. The class attribute is going to be removed. And then I want to hide the message area, right? So I want to do all that just like we've done before. This is all repeating what we've done. I haven't done the adding to session storage yet or redirecting, but I want to do this. Okay, cool. So let's go back and try this out. So if I put admin, but I put the wrong password in, right? And I click login, then it should give me a little error message that says error, invalid login information. Okay. And if, on the other hand, if I go back here and go admin, so I know I can fail, and I put the right login information, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and click login, then I'm good. See, the error goes away. So I know this is the correct password. And so I remember we always, when we do a test, we make it fail first. So again, if I just type in whatever I want, right, and click login, it's going to give an error. This is good. But if I click the right thing, if I put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is the login, if I click login again, it's gone. So this is good. This is good functionality. All right, so that's what this does. Okay, now I want to do I want to actually add things to session storage. But in order for me to add things to session storage, I need to serialize my user again. Remember we did this last time. If I go to users.json, so here's my users.json. Remember that users.json has a serialize, which serializes my display name, my email address, and my username, right? And I put this on, I can put this anywhere. An example of this would be if this would be on session storage now. So I want to kind of serialize this guy on session storage. Well, in order for me to do that, I need a user object. So back to our code. So I want to be able to get a user object before I'm doing this. And when can I do that? Well, first I need to declare a new user object somewhere, right? And if you think about this, it needs to be done just after I do my get. So something in there. When I'm doing this, I want to, every time I have my get, if I get access to my file, I could also do it after I click the login button, I make a new user. It's really up to you. It would work either way. So for example, if I wanted to do it here, let new user, we'll call it new user. And if I say that that is equal to, core, core.user object, that's what I want, right? Because remember that user is part of our core namespace, right? So here's my new user. And this is great. So I want to make it empty because I want to add to the user later. Then when I'm surfing through, I want to capture the user data at this point, right? So that, in other words, when I'm looking through all the users, then once I have success, I want here, right here is where the place I want to capture it. I want to search for them again. So I'm going to say something like, hey, new user dot, and I want to grab the information from JSON. And if you notice, it says I get the data from JSON. And so I'm going to pass in the user. I'm looping through each user. So I'm going to take the user data, which is in JSON format. Remember, JSON format, right? And I get, all this stuff. I'm going to get this user, whatever the user is. In this case, it's the admin user. I get the admin user, and after I get the admin user, I want to take this and push this into the user class, this user class from JSON. Using from JSON, I just take the data, display name, email address, username, and password. We have to make sure that this all matches how it looks in the users.json file, this users.json file as an example, right? So you can see that users.json, right, has display name, capital, upper camel case, same thing with email address, username, and password. So those things have to match. And I did that inside of users, right? So there's users. Notice that in users, I have the same structure, right? So this is what's happening here with from JSON, remember? So going back to our code then, we get from JSON. When I find the user, I want to enter the user information into a blank object, which I've created up here. to carry it forward so I can use it somewhere else, like in here. All right, so now that I have the object, I know that I have the object that I want to use, then it's simply me adding it into session storage. And the way to do that is, hey, I'm going to say, hey, session storage, I want to set item. And normally we need a key, and we generated the key, but for now, all I want is for every time we add a user that's logged in, I want to have a simple key that says user. That's the key for session storage. And then the value string is going to be my new user, and I want to serialize. And why am I serializing? Because I'm going to take the stuff from the user object and then output into session storage. Great, so this is what session storage does. It adds it in, and then I want to redirect the user back to our contact list.html, the secure area. So I want to say location.href, just like we've done before, is equal to contact-list.html. And that, my friends, is your login. Okay, let's test it and make sure it all works. So let's do it. So I'm going to go to here, and I'm going to say, I want my admin, but I put the wrong information inside, and click login. It's going to be an error. But if I go back and I put the right information in, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I click login, it's going to redirect me back to the contact list now. Cool, cool. Let's check the application session storage, and notice I have a user that is the admin user, and it kind of serialized the user and put it on inside of session storage. I have the display name, I have the username, admin, and I have my email address, just in case I want to have a profile page or something like that. I don't have a password, because if I was going to change my password, it would be a process to do that, right? I don't have that right now. So that is my user. That's pretty cool. And if I close off my page, let's say I close this tab off, and if I go back to it again, then, and if I go to inspect my application, you can see my session storage is wiped out. My local storage, though, is good. Session storage wiped out. So if I go back to login, then I can log in again and do the whole thing again. So that's one way of logging out. Just close off your tab. But we want to log out. We want to be able to log out again, and that's pretty cool. So that's one thing to note. One thing also is, what about if I'm already logged in and I try and log in again? I click, I don't know, I kind of actually put myself back to log in again, but I'm already logged in. I don't want to log in twice. That's kind of silly, right? I want to redirect them. If someone somehow gets back to the login page by actually typing in login.html, they should be redirected back into the secure area of our site because they're already logged in. Okay? So that's something that I don't want to do. I don't want them to have to log in again. So to emulate this, then, what I want to do at the top of the display login page is check to see if they're already logged in. And the way to do that is to say, okay, what about, do I have a user already? Do I already have a user? How do I do that? So I can say something that looks like this. I can say, well, if my session storage dot get item, and if I have a user, right, I don't care about actually storing this item right now, but if I have the user already, then I want to redirect, so to the secure area. So check if the user is already logged in, right? So if I'm already logged in, I want to redirect back to the secure area. So I want to do an href again, location.href, just like we did before, and that's back to that contact list page, contact list.html. All right, so that's what I want to do. So that's if they're already logged in. Let's check to see how this works. So if I go back now and I log in, right, and I click login, then I'm here, right? But let's say somehow, for whatever reason, I type in login.html, well, then it should take me back. So I'm already logged in. It shouldn't try and log me in again, right? So that's how it works. So it kind of takes me back into this contact list page. Similarly, if I'm not logged in, right? If I'm not logged in, it should redirect me back to the login page, right? If I try to access this contact list directly, okay? So we can use the same mechanism for this. So just the same thing. If not session storage.getUser, then redirect back to login. So how do I do that? So let's grab this and let's go put that at the top of my form, right? So if I'm not logged in, before I even do any of this, right, the contact list or whatever, I don't even want to show the contact list, right? Now, if I do it here, there's a couple places I can do this, right? This is if I'm not logged in, right? For if not session storage user, then I want to, but I'm here at the page already. I went to the page, right? I'm redirecting to the page. And before I redirect and show the page, when I'm clicking on it, I want this to redirect me out, right? So I want to go back to the login page. So login.html. I'm not checking what user right now. I'm just checking any user logged in. So if I did that, and let's just log out. So logging out right now is just closing it off and starting it off. We're going to get back to this and make sure it works properly. So if I go my contact us and click show contact list, it should take me to the login page. Does that make sense? Because I shouldn't be able to show my contact list in the secure area. One thing that does is it does flash for a second because I'm not redirecting at the server level. I'm redirecting at the client level. So client side, when I actually enter a URL up here, right, for my show contact list, it kind of goes there first and then redirects. Okay, that's what it kind of does. And we can capture this. We can stop that from happening when I type in this. So one way to do it is for the button, I can add information into the button. First of all, this button shouldn't even show up unless I'm logged in. So that's something that we need to remedy. The show contact list button should only show up as an example if I'm logged in, and it shouldn't even be here. It shouldn't even be a button here anymore because we're going to get to this. We should be actually a new link that shows up, which shows the contact list, right? That's only if and only if I'm logged in. I should show the contact list anyway. This button shouldn't show up. But what if I just put if I was a malicious user and just kind of knew the contact list, I've been there before, and I just put contact list. Well, notice that immediately showed stuff, right? It showed my contact list for 1 second. And if I'm fast enough, it's going to stop me from doing stuff. I can't really capture it here because, I'm going to my server and I'm going to my contact list. And what I need to do is before my page loads, right? Before my page loads, this is somewhere where I have to capture, is the user logged in? And if not, then redirect them. We're not going to get there this right now. We're going to do it near the second half of semester when we use Node.js and stuff to make our own little custom server. Right now, our little server is just a local page that we're using. And so that it does that, right? There is no way to redirect before the page loads. Not really, not reliably anyway. Okay, so this is definitely something that we want to do, and we want to do it. We want to do that at the server level, not at the client side level. But for now, it will mock up what it feels like to move from if the user's not logged in. Okay. So what about if the user is logged in? So this is definitely, it made this page kind of secure. By the way, we can also create a check, if you will, somewhere else, right? Remember that this whole thing here in the page is a big switch case, right? So when I start, when this thing loads and the page finishes loading, right? And this is the problem with this. When I wait for the page to load in order for my JavaScript to take hold, right? I wait for the page to load. But remember, each page, that's one thing I could do for my contact list.html. I'm waiting for the entire page to load in order for my JavaScript to take hold, right? But if I want a redirector, right, then what I could do is I could put a script in the head of my document which is check to see if I have, and it's only for pages that are secure, for example, my contact list.html. And I could just check up here before the page loads. That's something I could do, right? That is something that is somewhat reliable. So I'm not waiting for the page to load. I want to, kind of implement this. And if you want, here is an example of that. So if I put a script tag, right? And the script tag is here, just like I did my script tag down in here. There's my script tag, right? Script. And instead of putting a source, if I want to put a script just to try this, let's put a script in here to try this out, right? So before even this page loads, I'm going to run a script. And then this, I could take this script and put it into a file if I wanted to, right? So let's try this out up here. So I'm going to go back into my app.js. And the same thing that I have in here, let's lift it out of that page, this part right here. Let's lift it out of this page, this display contact list. So I'm going to kind of cut it out. And I'm going to put the exact same code inside of my actual page. So that's inside the page, contact list. Now, again, I don't recommend this, but as a test, there's nothing wrong with trying this out first. And then we can make it into, because it's only like 4 lines of code, right? So we can see what happens if the user is not logged in. Okay, let's try this out now. So again, if I go to my contact page, again, I've saved this. And if I go to my contact page and go show contact list, then it automatically redirects the user and there's nothing. I see nothing. I can't even get to my contact page before the page loads. That's the way to do it. So if I go contact list, just redirects the user. There is no contact list. I'm just going to redirect right away before the page loads, which is a way nicer way of doing it, all right, than how we did it earlier. So I want to capture this, and that little script that I want to put on, I can put in on the top of my page. And that script, I can do it in 2 ways. One, I can do it here. I recommend doing it right like this, but we should probably have some kind of, kind of a guard. That's what we're really doing, a secure guard or an access guard, which is to check to see if if I'm logged in, right? So, and so the script can be called something that's just reasonable, right? Like, a security guard, or that's what it is, right? It's a auth guard, right? And the auth guard, right, is something that I want to put in the top of any page that when the user is not logged in, it's going to redirect them back to login. So let's make that script. So a new file, we'll call this file authguard, right, .js. And my authguard.js, again, I want to consider what this is going to do for us, right, and how it's going to work. I want to grab that little contact list piece. So instead of doing this, I'm going to grab this now and put it inside of my authguard.js the way it is, little script. And then in my contact list.html, now I want to use my authguard up here in the head of my document before my document loads. This is a great place to put it because anything that's in the head happens way before the body loads. So again, I want to do script, source, and then /scripts /authguard, right, which is this, authguard.js. And that's going to do the exact same thing. One thing that you may want to do, again, just from a, I like, strategies, right, of making sure that this is the same. So this little script here, and this is kind of check to see if user is logged in, right? This is a secure page, right? So I do my authguard.js, right? My authguard.js could use an IFI, and it could use the same stuff that I have. It's not wrong to do it. It's just going to activate it as soon, instead of doing this right away. I mean, again, this is overkill because it's going to go away like immediately. There's nothing else to do here. I'm not even sharing any information here, but just for completeness, just like we have in our app.js at the top, right? So again, I'm going to go all the way to the top here. Just have use strict. And I have a this, right, this kind of funky thing here. I'm going to do the same thing with my auth guard. So again, auth guard, I'm going to put use strict. That's definitely what I want up here, just to make sure that I didn't mess up. And I also want to put it inside of an iffy. So again, my normal iffy looks like this, right? And there's nothing wrong with doing the same thing. Just it's going to activate it right away, right? So I don't have to wait for the page to load or anything like that, or anything else to load. It's just going to do it in here. I don't need a wait window on load because I just wanted this to be in here, and I can convert this. What if I convert this into a fat arrow function? That's going to be a little script that's encapsulated inside of a closure that's inaccessible anywhere else. I can't go in there and mess with this anywhere else, right? So let's try this out and make sure it works. So I'm saving this. I'm going to go back to my contact page. So again, I'm going to go to contact us and go to show contact list, and boom, it's redirected and I see nothing. I can't even get to the page unless I'm logged in. So if I go here and again, I try and type in contact list, it's going to just redirect me back immediately. Now let's check to see if it actually can log me in, because that would be bad if it doesn't, right? So this is good. That totally works. And it checks to see if I'm logged in, if there's a user, and if there is a user, I'm good. All right, are you with me? So that kind of did two things. I made my login page work and I did an auth guard. All right, so let's put this up on GitHub. So I'll say git add dot git commit -m, and I'll say added login functionality and auth guard. Yeah, push. Okay, so that kind of does a lot of what I wanted to do today. Okay, so it stops me from logging in, stops me from accessing pages, and it's really great because it doesn't show you anything. In fact, anytime you want full control of a page before the page loads, you put your script inside the header, the head of the document. If you want to wait to do something with the page, right? If I want to wait to do something with the page, as an example, after the page loads, so any kind of DOM manipulation and those kind of things, then you put your script at the bottom of the page because you want to wait till the page finishes loading anyway, right? So there's no point putting it at the top. It's not finished loading yet. So that's something that you need to do. But the great thing about putting it in the head of the document is it just activates immediately. As soon as that page is hit, it's going to do something at the top. I don't have to wait for the page to load. And we're going to use that same mechanism when we do our single page application. I'm going to intercept the page, whatever you put inside the top of the page. And so we won't have that flickering thing happening. Okay, the next thing is, what if the user is logged in? I want to modify the user from login. I want to change it to logout when the user is logged in. Okay, I want to be able to do that. So I want to get access to the login link. So again, if I go to login.html, right, here's my login.html. When the user is logged in, I want to change my login link, this login link here. I want to change to say logout when the user is logged in. So I don't want it to always say login, because right now, every time I go, no matter where I go, even if I'm logged in, right? Let's log in now. If I log in, it's going to take me to thing, and it still shows me logged in, right? This is something else. Notice that when I log in, I briefly see my login page, and I come back. Remember what we just did? That's a great place to put the page as well. So that little thing that I had in the page, let's go back there because we're just thinking about improvements just for a second, right? I don't want that to flicker. I want it to go right back to the page if I'm already logged in, right? So I don't want to go to login if I'm already logged in. I want to check to see, and I want to take us back to the secure area if I'm already logged in, right? So just like we did before in the display contact list, we can do the same thing in the display login. So here, if I want to redirect the user, if I'm already logged in, session get item user, I mean, again, if I'm already logged in, then I want to redirect myself back to the contact list. Okay, so that's something that I want to do as well. If I'm already logged in, get myself back to the contact list. So I have authguard. I'm checking to see if I'm not logged in, right? If I'm not logged in, then, redirect me back to login. I don't want to put that in here because it's going to cause a nice loop happening, right? So if I'm logged in, then take me back to my contact list. I could put that in there completely, right? I could show that page and it would refresh the page. Actually, is what it's going to do, right? I don't want that to happen. Instead, I want to make another little script like this, which is loggedin.js, right? So something like that. So let's make a new script, new file. I'll call it isLoggedIn.js. IsLoggedIn.js. I'm just going to copy my authguard, right? But it's going to be the opposite. So isLoggedIn.js is going to be here, and it's going to basically say if I have a user, right, then I want to go to my secure area, contact list.html. And actually what it should say is in my other one, my authguard, it should go to redirect back to login page, Again, this is going to do some interesting little effects, but what it's going to do is going to stop us. Check the user is already logged in. If the user's already logged in, then I want to go back. This one is check if the user is not logged in, right? And go back. So is logged in and authguard are two different things. So I want to use is logged in for my login page. So I'll redirect us back. So let's put that in my login page at the top. So login page, we want to say that what happens if I'm already logged in, right? So I'm going to say that script source, right, /data/ scripts / is logged in. Wow. Is logged in. It's going to check this before anything loads. So I can just put a little remark in there that says something like check if user is already logged in. Right? If I'm already logged in, don't log me in. Don't even show this page. Just go back to the contact list. And then I can remove that little piece of code from my my page, my app.js, which is right here. Let's move that away from here. We don't need to do this check anymore here because I'm checking to see if I'm logged in already. Okay, so let's see how this works. So again, I will go back to login, and it just doesn't go anywhere. It just flickers up here, but it doesn't even show the login page. Look, right? So that's pretty cool. And that's what I want to do with my is logged in and authguard. So that's kind of really nice little functionality. All right. But what if I am logged in? I want to switch stuff up, right? So at the bottom, remember, one thing is I have some common functionality that I have here. When I want to swap out my login, I can just do it right here in my start function, right? So for now, in the bottom of my start function, I can check to see if I'm logged in. And if I am logged in, so again, I'll do the same check we did, but down here, if session storage dot get item, and then it's user. So if I'm logged in, that's what this means. I'm already checked in the top, right? But this is for every page, not just for the other pages, but for every single page. All the pages is going to be where this is going to go because this is in the switch case. Doesn't matter what document it is. For every page, if I'm already logged in, I know I have my login link. Let's get that. So let's get the login link. I can try and use jQuery for this. I can say, hey, I want to get an ID of login link because that's what I called it, right? But remember, I'm going to get all elements that match this thing, right? All elements. and I want to change my inner HTML of my login link to something else. So I'll say like inner HTML. This is, sorry, inner HTML. And notice that inner HTML is not even a function. All right, so what about if I just start typing HTML? HTML, that's a method. I can use my HTML method. And in my HTML method, what I can do is I can put in my little custom HTML that's in there, right? So I can change up my inner HTML of my login link to look like whatever I want. Well, let's get my HTML of my login link first and see what I'm talking about. So let's go back to my any page, doesn't matter which one. So my contact list is, as an example. And I have this is my login link. My ID is login, right? I called it login. Let's just be a little bit, I'm a little bit worried about login because I might have put login somewhere else. Let's change my, well, actually I called it login now, it's never page, so I have no choice. So I should just say login. So that's what, when I access this. So I want to grab this. This is my inner HTML of my login, right? And I want to go back to my app.js and then put backtick characters, right? Backtick, I want to use a template string where I change up my inner HTML from navlink login HTML. It's not going to log in. It's going to go and log out. So I'm going to get, anytime I have a user logged in, I'm going to just put this in and it'll switch out the HTML to log out. And then it'll be, instead of sign in alt, it'll be sign out alt. So it'll look different, as well as it'll be a different link. For now, I don't want to perform a logout, so I just want to put a hashtag in there as a placeholder. So placeholder is just a hashtag. I want to see what this link looks like if I was to do this properly. So this is going to check to see if I'm logged in, if user is logged in, right? Then swap out the login for log out, right? Login link. Okay, so that's what this does. So if I go back now, you'll see that it says log out. Nice. Immediately. So if I go contact, but you see how it flickers there? Kind of flickers for a second. I mean, it's hard to notice because, you know, it just flickers for 1 second, you know, as an example, and it does that. And I want to do it for every page, So there's a couple ways to do this. One is to attach something on every page, the header again, and the header will swap out this, but I can't do that because remember that this thing hasn't even loaded yet. My nav bar won't even load yet. So I can't do it at the header of the document. And this is where my limitations come in. So logout is pretty cool. It doesn't do anything right now. All right, so that's what the logout, that's how I capture and change log in to log out, right? Well, what about if I'm logged out? Does it still work? So if I exit and go back and go localhost, then log in is there again. So I'm logged in, I can go log in, I can put my admin in there. And when I do that and click login, then it says log out. Pretty cool, right? So it gives me my logout link. Excellent, I like it, right? Now I want to be able to, when someone clicks on the logout link, when someone clicks on this link, right, on this page, then, you know, I want to be able to do something. Well, let's be smart, and instead of just putting in a thing like this, let's make an anchor tag to do something when I click on it. So I say ID is equal to logout. I can put an ID on the link that I just made, right? So it says logout. And then what I want to do is, again, this is still inside of the if session storage user is available. Then what I want to do down here is say something like, hey, jQuery, when I have someone clicks on the logout link, on click, when someone clicks on the logout link, right, then what I want to do when someone clicks on the logout link is I want to perform my logout, perform logout, and then I want to redirect back to login. I want to redirect back to login, okay? I want to do this, but I want to perform logout. How do I do that? It's pretty simple. Session storage dot clear. That basically clears the user, which effectively, I could also remove item, but why just not just to clear it? So there's nothing in session storage at all. It clears up session storage, and then it logs you out, redirects you back. So that is effectively logging out. So I don't really need a link here or a page for logout. I just need to, when I click onto it, it's almost like a clickable link. When I click onto it, then it redirects me. And if I save this and go back to this and click logout, then it takes me back to my login page. Nice, nice, nice. And if I try and log in again, just like we did before, so a very nice way of doing this. If I say contact list, you can see it won't even let me go to the contact list page anymore. It's not even accessible in this way, right? One thing to note is, I got to talk about this with you guys. Remember, this is front-end security. We need back-end security too. So if I go to my find spec, right? And remember that here, what I have is full access to the page, including the header. All right, so there's the header. Remember that I can remove anything I want, right? So let's say I want to go in here and I want to modify any of this stuff that I want in here, right? I want to delete this element. I can do it in real time, right? So, I can do this. Now, the thing is, when I refresh the page, it doesn't matter, right? But I could do a lot of stuff here. I can remove any script that's in here to disable anything that I want. Just keep that in mind, right? And this is in real time. Anyone has the ability to do that, right? Okay. More info, Google. You're getting a message. DOM input elements should have autocomplete attributes suggested. No, I don't recommend. I don't recommend that. Let's take a look what you got here. An invalid dynamic link from Firebase. I don't know. You shouldn't. That shouldn't be a thing, Nick. I'm not sure what that is that you're getting. Current password, but you shouldn't have autocomplete. Autocomplete should be off as much as possible, right? Because if autocomplete's on, then it'll remember what I put in here before, and I don't want that. Okay. Yay. Awesome. So this is pretty cool. Login HTML1, it says that. I'm not sure. I don't get that error, so I'm not sure why you're getting that error. So that is what this does. This is kind of does everything that we want to do. And off the top, this is everything that we want to do. We want to basically log in, it redirects us, and it's a little piece of code. Now, one thing you want to put here is this little functionality is a function that's outside of what we're doing here in my switcher. My start is actually my switcher, and it would make sense to put this inside of a function. So we'll make a little function that says, kind of replace or toggle login, logout, or show login, show logout, show logout. We can also say display, just to make the same thing. We'll say display logout, right? Which is what this is, display logout. So I can take all of this out of here, and we can replace it with display logout, because we want to make it so that if the person is there, then, or if the user is already logged in, so check display, swap out logout, swap out, we'll say toggle login, logout, right? And that's what this is going to do in here. So I'm just going to put this in a function, right? We just call it display logout. We can also process logout, whatever you want to call it. But it'll display logout if the user is logged in, logged out. If you don't like display and you want toggle login, that might be a better name. We can always refactor rename. So we can say rename symbol, and we can say toggle login, right? Which is what it really is doing, right? So toggle login, logout, right? And then it does the login functionality. All right, so let's put this up on GitHub. Well, first let's check to see if that works. So again, we're logged in, admin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, log in, takes us back to this page, right, as an example. And then you see it's log out. If I click log out, then it takes us back to log in. So that totally works. Control backtick, git add dot, git commit -m, and we'll say added login, log out toggle. Link toggle. Git push. That does kind of a really cool little functionality. We're going to see the same kind of functionality we want when we're using Express later on this semester. That's a lot that we did there already. And so we've done a bunch of stuff. We've been able to simulate logging in and logging out. We're not really logging in and logging out, right? We're just comparing versus a little user file. That's all we're doing. And it's a short little user file. One thing we never checked is, what about if I log in as John Smith or May Smith? Does that work? Right? So let's check that. So if I say John Smith and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, log in, that works, right? But what if I put in something else? Like, I don't know, Tom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I should get an error, right? Because Tom doesn't exist, right? So that's how you should check it to make sure it fails. My register page still works. Here's my register page. It needs some love, and I'll leave this page to you guys, you know, coming forward, because this is part of your assignment, your lab 2. Let's talk about lab 2 a little bit, because everything I want for in-class exercise number 5, I've given you. So for in-class exercise 5, you should have a working login page. Okay, that's what it should work like. I should only be able to get to my my contact list, show contact list, if I'm logged in, right? So it should redirect me. In fact, show contact list doesn't need to be here anymore. Let's remove it from contact us, because it only should show up when the user's logged in. Okay, so a registered user, let's say. So let's get rid of the contact list here. So show contact list is inside of my contact page. So that's inside of my contact.html. And that is the button that is going to show contact list. Let's get rid of that now. We don't need it anymore because we have a mechanism for getting there now. So we can get rid of that contact button. In fact, it should never show up, because it doesn't make sense for a user that's logged in to try and put a contact in. They can add it in through the contact list, right? So now no more contact list button, all right? So when I log in, then it's going to take me to my page, right? So now we can add a contact through the right mechanism, my add contact form. That's something else we can try as well. Let me cancel here. When I edit, it says edit. And when I add, it switches up edit to add. And it's kind of a small little thing. But again, I have to wait for the page is loaded in order for me to swap this out. I can't do it beforehand. There's only certain things I can do in the head. Redirection is fantastic in the head of the document. But loading and changing document elements, I can't do in here. All right, so that's something that we did. Let's put that up on GitHub. We'll say removed our contact list button from contact page. Clear. Git add dot, git commit -m. I'll say removed contact list button from contact page. Hit push. That was there because we needed something to get us to the contact list, a link, and now we don't have it. It's not there. One thing also we want to do is we want to What about if I want to get back to this link again, right? I'm logged in, but there's no way to get to this link other than going to the login page again, right? That doesn't make any sense. I want to insert that link after the contact list and before the logout. Okay, now we got some DOM manipulation, which is very similar to what we did before. Now I'm going back to you guys. How do I do that? How do I insert a contact list link that's up here that's only going to show up when I'm logged in? How do I do that? What do you think? What would be the steps to do that kind of thing? By the way, you've been asked to do something like this, similar things in the past, right? In your lab 1. So how did you do it in lab 1? What's a suggestion for you guys? Again, it's something that I can put in. There's some tricks that I can use. A trick would be it's always there. And then if I'm not logged in, I hide it. That's a trick. But that means that every single page has to have the contact list link there. And then I can hide it, right? And that's not cool. The other thing is I want to insert it, but I want to insert it before the login link. And the login link, remember, happens, it's the second last element, right, is where I want to put it. I want to insert before the login link. Okay, so that's what I want to do. So I can do that again. Let's go back to my app.js. So in my app.js, let's consider what this means. Toggle login, right? And when I am logged in, right? If I'm logged in or logged out, that's kind of what's happening here. Sure, I log in, but I'm also going to show the message link. That's what I want to do. So now toggle login is not really the great name for that. It's like, it's almost like another thing I can do. I mean, I'll leave it as toggle login for now, but if I'm logged in, then I want to swap out the HTML of my login and click onto it and blah, blah, blah. Well, I want to do the same thing now. I want to use jQuery, and I want to say, hey, jQuery, I want to insert before something. So I want to say, I want to go to my login, right? And is there a way of insert? Well, there is. There's insert before my login. What do I want to insert before my login? It says a selector element, array of elements, HTML string, or jQuery object that match set of elements might be inserted before the elements specified by this parameter. Insert every element in the set of matched elements before the target. So before login, I want to insert some kind of string, node, jQuery, HTML, right? So I want to do this, and I want to be smart, and I don't want to work hard, remember? So this is a real easy way to do this. I can just go to my login, right? So let's take a look at my any page. So here's my contact list, and here's my login, and here's my nav link. I want to make a nav link like this. I'm going to grab this contact list, and this whole list item is going to be added before this one. Can I do it? Let's see. Well, we're going to use backtick characters. Just what we did. So here's my template string. Template strings are great because they allow me a lot of leeway. And I want to do something that looks like this. Cool. So there's my login page, my contact.html. Let's add in this, and it'll be called contact list.html, right? And instead of FA phone, we want FA, I think it was users. I think that's what I had in there for the page before. I'm just checking my GitHub just to make sure what it was in my contact list, because that was pretty cool. That link was good. It was just I don't need it anymore, right? That contact list.html is, yeah, FA users is what I use. So FA users, right? One thing to note is we want to match the size. FA large is what we want, right? And so it's going to go right in there, right? So again, back to my contact.html. I want to go back to my app. Here's my app. And I want to assert, instead of contact us, it's going to say contact list, right? My users, my page, and whatever. And then now the funny thing is, when we go to this page, right? If I can get to the contact page, then I want to add a class. I want to change nav link to nav link active only when I go to that contact list page. Well, let's see if this works. Okay, so save, and I'm going to go back to here, and remember what we want to do is if I'm logged in, then I want to add in the page, but man, it doesn't seem to work. Insert before. I want to insert before. I want to insert before this element. And well, did it do it? Right? So let's see what happened. So inspect, and I want to go into the element. So here's my HTML in my head. And then, sorry, not my head, my body in the header. I want to look at my nav. Here's my nav. And I'm right in there. So inside my nav, this is my div. Here's my UL. There's my nav active. There's my HTML page. And I want to insert before right here another page, and I don't see it. Contact us is not here. In fact, look what happened. My login disappeared. Login actually went away. That's not what I want, right? Insert before login, totally disappeared, right? Why? Because I did this, insert before, and we say, what's the target? So it's insert every element in the set of matched elements before the target, right? So that's what it did. So insert before, no, it didn't do it. Let's take a look at the API to see what that looks like and how we can fix this, right? So here's some examples. I have a div and inner, hello and goodbye, and I want to put something in between. I can say, okay, I want to find this, insert before this. So we did it wrong, right? What we want to do is, first of all, what am I inserting, and where am I inserting it before? Okay, so I want to put in this before hashtag login. That's what it should be. It kind of looks weird, but let's see if this works out. And is this even going to work? I may have to use just regular JavaScript for this, for what I want to do, right? Okay, well, let's see what happens, right? I mean, the only thing we can do is try. So let's go back to my contact list, and then we should see, hey, look at that. There's my contact list. It worked now, right? So contact list, so if I go to my contact page and I want to see my contact list again, then there it is, right? But if I log out, then my contact list is gone. Yes, if I log in again, then my contact list appears, right? This is my contact list. It appears right here. Okay? But it doesn't show up here. When I'm here in my contact list page, it doesn't really show up. And that doesn't mean anything. It means that I don't want it to be always glowing when I'm on every page. I just want it to be glowing when I'm on the contact list page. So let's do some funny things. I want to get this. I want to get access to my list item, which is has to do with my contact list. Let's be smart again and make an ID, which is equal to contact list, an ID of contact list. Now we got to be careful because we may have an ID of contact list already in the contact list page. So let's see if that's true. So again, do I have a contact list? I do. Here's my contact list. So I can't use that, but I could make it so it's contact list link, something like that. So contact list link. I know it's kind of long, but contact list link is what I want to change. The contact list link, okay? And then when I go to the contact list, so if I go back to my app.js, right, and I want to go to my contact list page, so display contact list. So display edit, and at the top of the contact list, we don't care if session storage's length is 0 or not. We just want to change this, swap that out. So we can say, hey, jQuery, when I find the contact list link, if contact list link exists, then what I want to do is I want to add a class to it, which is active. Now, it's got to go in the right spot because remember in my contact list, it's going to add a class up here, right? Nav item active, right? So let's see if this works. And refresh, and nope, it's not working. And let's see if what's happening here. So again, inspect, and I want to go into the body and into the header and into my nav item and my UL. Again, this is in the header of my document. So here is this one. Here's my UL, and I got my contact list link. It's there, contact list link. But I have a class of nav item and not nav item active. All right, so that's what I'm talking about. This nav item has to change to nav item active, and I can actually check that. If I put nav item active in here and go in, then what I want is for this to glow the white that it would show, right? That's what I want it to do, but it's not, even if I put that in there, it's not showing up. So what about if I go to another page like services? So again, if I go to services, and we'll finish with this now after this, okay? If I go to header, and I go nav, and I go to nav, and I go to this one in the UL, and you can see that in services, it's my services link, right? So where is it being added? It's here, right? And it's nav link active in here, not up here. So this is where it's got to go, not at the list item level. So again, if I go back to my app.js, this is okay, but my contact list link is not okay. My contact list link, right, should not be here, but actually be here. And now, if we did everything properly and I go to my contact list, it should show up. Let's see if it didn't. Let's see why. So again, I'm in my contact list, and I want to go to my contact list link, and it says nav link, but not nav link active. And that's what I want to do. I want to be able to go there and change it, right? I want to go there and change it. So this is contact list link. Let's make sure this is correct. Class nav link is here, nav link, and it should be nav link active. Let's check it. If I add a nav link active, what happens? So if I go to nav link, active, right, and press enter, then we should see it glow like that. See how that looks nice? That's what I want it to do. Okay, and I'm trying to do it with jQuery, not JavaScript. JavaScript would have been done by now, but I just want to show jQuery just because we're there. So let's go back up to our contact list and see what we're doing wrong. All right, so we're saying, hey, contact list link, that's spelled properly, contact list link, add class active, right? Okay, what about the other thing? Can we change something? Set attribute to a class. Okay, we can set the class attribute. We want to replace the class attribute with nav link active. Nav link active. Let's see if that works. So nav link active is something that's going to work if I go to the contact, and it says that set attribute is not a function on jQuery. Okay, set attribute, no. What is it on jQuery that does it then, right? So there's attribute. Okay, instead of set attribute, and we can type that in again. So again, it's the class attribute, and then it's nav link active. Again, we got to select the right thing in jQuery. And no, see, it didn't work. Nav link active, that's attribute. What else? What could it be? So if I type in attribute at all, then we gotta go through, and attribute does it, right? But I want to do it with, let's do it with just regular HTML. So document dot get element by ID, right? And I want to get the element which is, hey, I want to use the contact list link. I want to get access to the contact list link. That's what the ID is called. I don't need the hashtag because I'm doing this whole thing. And then I want to set attributes of my class to nav link active. So that's just regular stuff. It says set attribute of no, cannot read it. Get element by ID. Why not? Why can't I get contact list link? Why is this not working? Contact list link when I display contact list. Why is that not happening? Well, there's a couple of things, right? What if I'm setting up this page for the first time and I'm not active? That would be a problem. And what if I put this inside of my session storage? So if I say session storage is greater than 0, then I want to check this, right? What about, I want to make sure that I have a logged in user. That's what this session storage length greater than 0 is, right? Local storage length greater than 0. But still, it doesn't take away this issue, right? Where I'm trying to access something in my page that is the contact link. And notice that the contact list, I'm logged in, but I don't have a link here right now. I don't have the link. Why is it that I don't have the link there? Well, my friends, the reason why I don't have the link is because I'm doing it down here after the thing is done. So after I've gone to my page, then I'm trying to toggle on and off my link, and that's not what I want, right? I'm doing this part here after, and I don't want this to happen. I want this part to happen before I go to my contact list page. So my contact list page is going to have this part here, right, before my display contact list. Again, there's some things we can do to make this happen, right? Because I know I'm logged in for me to get to my page. This is the problem. This is the problem we have with jQuery. That's why I'm showing you this. If I go back now, then the contact list shows up nicely. See? That's only because this has got to be set before, because when it was down here, my toggle login, which was in here, then bad things happen. So we want to put this, we know that the only way we're going to display the contact list is if I'm logged in. I've already got the guard in place, so I don't have to worry about that, right? I don't have to worry about if I'm logged in or not, because I'm not going to show this page unless I'm logged in. So therefore, when I go back to my, make some assumptions here, of course, but we're going to go back up to the top and say, if my display contact list, well, then I want to mark that thing as active, nav item. I want to change my contact list link to active, right? I want to say insert before this thing, but it's only going to insert it for the contact list page, right? Not everywhere, and only when I'm logged in. And that's a problem. Okay, I'm just pointing this out because, yes, it's nice, but it's only going to work when I'm in my contact page, not everywhere else. So how do I conquer this problem to make it the nav link active when before I go to the page, right? Because this is what's going to work. And by the way, let's go back and do it with jQuery again. So the reason why it didn't work with jQuery is because it didn't find that, right? So I'm going to say, hey, jQuery, I want to find an ID of contact list link, and then let's change the attribute of the class to this, right? That's what I want to do. And let's see if this works for that contact page the same way it did before. By the way, I don't have to put it in here, right? I can put it here, right? And it'll still work, right? But if I go here, it's gone. That's not what I want, right? I don't want this to be added in once. I want it to be added in all the time, right? So, right? How do I take care of this so it's all the time? Well, let's take this, think about this for a second. When we think about our loading and everything else, okay? So we had it down here, toggle login, right? Here's a question for you. When I do my switcher, right? Does it matter? Does it matter that I need to display everything first and switch this loads the page first and then I modify it. That's what this does. Load the page first, then modify. Okay, load the page first, then modify. So the page is loaded, then I'm modifying it. Cool. Okay, so that is why inside my toggle link, if my session storage is there, I want to put in this thing. This is how this works. Yay. I logged in the page, I modified it. Cool. I'm awesome. I put it in. But now I want to switch it up. And I'm going back to my contact list again, this idea. So my contact list is here, my display contact list, but it hasn't done anything yet. I haven't loaded it for me to change it up. I haven't loaded it for me to change it up. I haven't done this yet, right? So until it loads, then this is not going to work. So I've got a bit of a conundrum, right? I want to do this, but only when the page loads. But when the page loads, that's the only time that I know that I'm logged in, right? So this is where it's a problem. Is there a solution, my friends? What do you think of a way of putting a solution in place? Because I can insert elements, no problem, but changing the content of the elements, right? I have to wait it's the order that I'm doing it in right now, right? So remember that what I'm doing is I'm saying, let's do this one more time, then I'll stop, okay? So here's my switcher. I load the pages, all the content, the nav items and everything else. I've loaded all the pages up here already. They're already loaded, right? And then I toggle the login page. And after that, when I'm between the login page and this, I'm putting this on only when I'm logged in. This only works when I'm logged in. So I'm like, check to see if I'm logged in, okay? Couldn't toggle login go to the top? Well, how would it go to the top? If I put this to the top up here, nothing is loaded yet. I don't have a nav bar. Toggle login can't go to the top because there is no nav bar to toggle. Does that make sense? There's no nav bar yet, right? So I can't toggle something that doesn't exist, right? Can't toggle something that doesn't exist. So that means, it's not going to find. That's why it doesn't exist right now. And when I'm here, it doesn't exist yet. It doesn't exist yet. And then what I want to do is after it exists, then I want to modify it. After the login exists, I want to change it to say log out, right? After the page is loaded, I want to toggle login. After the page is loaded. After all these pages load, I want to toggle it. If I'm logging in or logging out, I want to toggle this in, right? I also want to check to see, I also want to add my contact list if I'm logged in. So I'm adding an item, but this only happens when I'm logged in, and I can't modify something that doesn't exist. I can't even do this part, insert before my login, right? As an example, I can insert before, I can do this anywhere I want, insert before my contact list before my login, but only when I'm logged in. But I need to have a page to insert before. You see what I'm saying? You see where the conundrum is? I have to load the page check to see if I'm logged in, swap out the login for log out, right, as an example. That's what this part does after the page is loaded, right? So that's the problem. There is a solution, but we're going to get to that next week or the week you come back. Okay, so let's just end this off. So again, we've done a couple things. We added the thing, we added the link. So we'll say clear, say git add dot git commit -m, and we'll say added contact list link to nav when user is logged in. We did that. We didn't make it shine though. We didn't make it glow. Git push. Okay. So again, contact list is there. If I log out, contact list is gone. If I log in, right? If I log in, everything is great. It's back to normal, right? Just the only time it doesn't show this logged in when I'm here. Why? It's just the way I've loaded it. It's not that I can't do it. It's just that the order of loading, right? I got to check a bunch of stuff, right? So this nav bar is present. Then I load my stuff, right? And then somehow I got to make sure that this is switched, right? After it's been loaded. So again, I could make another function to check to see which the page is on if I'm on the contact page and then do it, but that's kind of ugly. There's ways of doing it, but I want to make a nice, elegant way of doing it for you guys. All right, so let's see what's left. So we did all of this. This is pretty good. We covered everything. One thing to note is we're sitting here at week 6. Remember that your test 2, as a final reminder, your test 2 is due this Sunday. I've sent you a note as well. In-class exercise 5 is due Saturday. I've told you what I need for that. Next week, remember, there's no class. It's reading week. And when we get back from reading week, that is when your lab 2 is due. We've kind of done most of what I need you to do for lab 2. And if I have to bring up lab 2 really quickly, so we can talk about lab 2 just for a second before we end for the day. So here's lab 2. Lab 2 says, I want you to add a login and register page. Kind of done that for you, right? And I want you to use this login and register page. Kind of done that for you too, right? So you get a bunch of free marks already, all right? If you followed my structure, if you followed my in-class exercises, then this is how a lot of this is done already for you. Okay, validation with jQuery, login page using only jQuery and jQuery. I want to look at this. It says, I want you to have the username between the contact us link and the login logout link. Well, I've already got the login logout link for you, and this is the one piece you need to do by yourself. Have your username inserted between the contact us link and the login logout link. Okay, so somewhere in between there, you need to put that username. I recommend right before the login logout link is where it should go. And then it's just a bunch of, this is already there, error message. It's not error message, it's message area, but that's fine. I would accept what I've given you. I'm not going to say like, well, I've asked you for error message, but you know, I've given you message error, please change it. Like that's a real small change. Don't worry about it. You're going to get the marks just by using my structure. So I'm giving you this, right? You just have to do this, all of this stuff. Okay, and of course your internal documentation, your GitHub, your cloud provider stuff, put it up on GitHub pages and make a short video. But for the most part, the functionality, most of it is ready to go. You just need to do validation on the register page. So please get that done. That's the only thing I want you guys to do. You can use regular expressions to validate. You can do a bunch of stuff in here that checks to see if everything works, right? Please make sure that this all works properly. And this is really it. It's not a lot, but the great thing is it's simple, and if you followed along, then doing this is a breeze. If you haven't followed along and you've never done the in-class exercise at all, then this would be hard, right? That's the idea behind it. So hopefully you've followed along, you've done your homework, and this is nothing for you guys. All right, questions around anything else that we've talked about today before we go for the day? All right then, guys, I'm going to stop recording. Thank you so much for attending, and I'll see you guys after the break.